lunch hour, we are picking up work this afternoon with some bill introductions. Couple of meetings after that, so we will be breaking probably around the 2 o'clock hour before the floor. Starting off, we're joined by Representative Martin Lalonde, who is the chair of our Judiciary Committee, and he is going to discuss two bills he has on our wall. It's not on our wall. One may come. Yeah. And so we will start with the one that's on our wall. Which one, huh?
All right, yes. So I'm gonna describe the situation that has led to this bill. And then I'm going to suggest a way forward that will involve Representative Morgan as well. So the issue is that it's come to our attention, the ethics panel this past year, and with conjunction with our legislative counsel who staffed that panel, and the clerk also, Betsy Ann, also staffs that panel, and Michael O'Grady, who's here to back me up in case I say anything wrong. So we looked at the ethics law that was recently passed here, and there's a provision that goes into effect July 1st of 2025 that has a consultation requirement when the state ethics commissioner receives a complaint and it involves a legislator. The commissioner is to refer that to the ethics panel. If it's a House member, it's the House ethics panel. If it's a Senate member, the Senate ethics panel. The provision, the bill or the law also provides, that's not what is in this, what this H1 does is it reverses all that, but we're going to have a different approach than what this H1 does. But it has a requirement that the ethics panel that has received the referral, the House ethics panel, has to wait 60 days for a recommendation from the ethics commissioner. Now, that's problematic. The legislature has the constitutional authority to oversee essentially the behavior of its members and any kind of consequences for the behavior. And having that constraint that we have to wait 60 days is problematic. It impinges on our constitutional authority. There's also a practical issue as well. If we receive a complaint towards the end of a biennium and we have to wait 60 days, our jurisdiction could end, that we no longer can address that. We would be into a new biennium. So there's that practical problem as well. So the way H1 dealt with this was to take away that consultation requirement. But we've had discussions with the ethics commissioner, Christina Sivert, and we're continuing those discussions to find a different approach where we will still be able to take advantage of the expertise in consulting with the ethics commissioner, but we won't have impingement on our authority. And we have a couple ways that we're trying to figure that out. And I'm hoping that that you will wait for us to figure it out. Like I mentioned before, Representative Morgan will be working. He's on the ethics panel now as well. And we will be working on a solution that, again, allows us to take advantage of the expertise and consultation of the commissioner without impinging on our authority. And with that, I'll just ask if I missed any important, if I get.
That was pretty good.
All right, okay. Well, I've heard Mike explained it 3 or 4 times now, and finally, I think, understand. I'm just kidding. Now, of course, I understood it myself, but just couldn't articulate it as well. So I'm happy to answer questions on this.
Anything from the table on this? So, I mean, I get what you're talking about with that 60-day window. It's definitely cumbersome to the schedule that the General Assembly operates under. I know you can't talk about specific instances, but has this situation arisen where you've been pinned up against this calendar before? This problem?
Not since I've been on the panel, which is this past biennium. And I think, I mean, that's in my view, a secondary issue. The primary issue is under the Constitution, Chapter 2, Section 14, That's where you find the authority of the legislature, the sole authority of the legislature to really oversee its members. It's the impingement on that authority, which is, I would say, unconstitutional. So we missed it when it actually was a bill and came into law, whenever it was, that last year or the year before. I apologize that we did not pick up on this, but we, will correct issues that raise constitutional concerns, obviously.
Okay. No, I think that's pretty clear. And this is definitely something that we will Representative Waters Evans.
So you're saying that any requirement, so let's say, just for fun, that you were saying we still want to have the ethics commission involved, but we're going to give them a week to weigh in on this issue or whatever. You're saying any kind of requirement that they're involved is impinging on our rights.
I would say that probably is the case. I would say probably one approach, and again, this is something we're going to have discussions with the ethics commissioner, that if they send us a referral, they should send us their recommendation or opinion when they send us the referral. Then there's not any kind of constraint on our time. So there are complications to this, which may end up dropping on you folks to help figure that out. As far as there is authority that the Ethics Commission has over legislators for non-core legislative functions. There can be some gray areas there. I don't want to dig into that because that's not even really part of this bill. That I'm just flagging that as an issue. In other words, there are behaviors outside of our core responsibilities that the ethics commissioner can, rule on. Like, yes, we're going to hear this afternoon about the gift requirements that are obligations that we have that is from that law and from the ethics commissioner. So did I misspeak on any of that?
No.
Okay. It's always good to have your legislative counsel in the room with you when you're on.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. They are great sidekicks to have in these situations. Yeah, I don't think I have any direct questions for you right now on this one. Anyone else at the table? Any other additions, questions? All right.
Good, excellent. So would love to tell you a little bit about H27, which my co-sponsor, Representative Nugent, is on this bill as well. That was in case it, well, not just in case it had to actually come to your jurisdiction. I think this is really just a drive-by, but I'll let you judge that after I explain what this bill does. It has to do with the Domestic Violence Fatality Review Commission, which has been in existence since the early 2000s at least, and has a panel of 17 members, has had a panel of 17 members for years. And they look at, they do two things. They have an annual, actually in the law, it's a report at the beginning of every biennium. Although they have been providing us an annual report instead. But the obligation is to provide us a report at the beginning of the biennium. And what that report does is that it goes over how many homicides or suicides there have been associated with domestic violence. And then this panel, or the commission, I should say, goes in depth. It picks a few cases from the lab, that closed cases that are no longer being adjudicated. And they dig deep into it. They talk to victims, they talk to law enforcement, they talk to a lot of different people to try to come up with what we can do systematically better to address domestic violence. And then they make recommendations. And you probably are, folks who've been in government operations for a while probably are familiar with them, because some of the recommendations do involve law enforcement and could come to this committee. I imagine that actually there is probably one or two in the current report that just came out a couple of days ago that I think probably will end up in government operations. That's not what this bill does, but I'm just flagging that for you. So their last year, they had a recommendation in their report, which came out too late for a bill last year. But that's what H27 is. And that it does a couple things. It doesn't do a bunch, but it does a couple important things. One is that, and this is the main reason why it came to Judiciary Committee, is that expands the kind of cases that they will take a deep dive in to include not just fatalities related to domestic violence, but what's they're labeled or calling near fatal instances of domestic violence. It kind of expands the cases that they might be able to look at to see what we can do to improve the situation. So that's one thing that it does. And we had a very long discussion in House Judiciary yesterday about that term and whether it needed further definition, and ultimately decided that it didn't need further definition in the context of the commission. We wanted to keep it fairly broad for the commission to decide what cases to dig into. It'd be a totally different issue if we were having some sort of criminal liability attached to something, then we would want a very sharp definition, but it was not necessary for purposes of this bill. The other thing it does is it adds six, well, the bill adds 5 additional individuals to that panel. We also went deep as far as, is that going to bog things down? Is that too many people? Can certainly hear from some additional witnesses if you need to, but the answer was from the chair of the commission and the 3 or 4 people who are on the commission currently felt that getting the additional ears and expertise into the room is important. So they've added sheriffs, they've added restorative justice practitioner, director of victim services for the Vermont State Police, state's attorney, victim advocate, and the director of victim services for the Department of Corrections. And each of those individuals actually came to the commission requesting to be put on the commission because they felt they could add that expertise. There's a couple changes, and I will back up. There's one other change that I'll mention in a moment. So there's an amendment that's posted, that you have posted, that does 2 things. One is, if you're looking at the bill on page 4, line 5 and 6, state's attorney, victim advocate appointed by the Vermont Center for Crime Victim Services. Actually, it is not the Vermont Center for Crime Victim Services who should do the appointing of that particular individual. The amendment will change that to the Department of State's Attorneys and Sheriffs. Minor amendment. The other is adding 1 additional person, the executive director of Crime Victim Services, or designee. We felt that that was the oversight, and having the Crime Victim Services individual at the table would be important. The other change is you will find on page 2, line 9 to 12. This is to ensure that the makeup of the commission is reflective of Vermont and of the community. And it's stating that the commission is intended to reflect the communities throughout Vermont, and appointing authorities shall strive to appoint persons from different racial and ethnic backgrounds, persons with a disability, and persons who identify as LGBTQ+. So that was also recommended by the commission, make sure that we have diversity on the commission. Now, again, often we come to you folks and say we are expanding commissions, and what you will usually ask me is there a sunset on there? I know that that always is a question, so I'm jumping ahead to answer that question. No, there is not, but that's because this is an ongoing commission providing a minimum a report every 2 years, and what they have been providing is every year. And I'm happy to take questions, and happy to understand if you all are just fine with where we are with this, because I actually do have this scheduled for a vote tomorrow. But if you actually want to take jurisdiction over this, then obviously we wouldn't do that. But or maybe
I'm looking at the member from Milton.
I don't think so.
Yeah, you're comfortable with this? Okay. Any other?
I think so. Yeah.
Any thoughts from the committee? So I guess we will accept Representative Morgan's comfort and just say thank you for the awareness, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely.
And should anything else arise with this while you're working on it tomorrow, just keep us in the loop, please.
I will do that. I will do that. Thank you very much for your time.
No, thank you. Thank you.
I'm glad that I have 10 more minutes so I can have some lunch.
Does anybody else have any?
No, well, I was gonna kind of, yeah, just asked that same question, but it seems like, this is living and being discussed in Lon's room. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Go eat something. Keep your blood
I'll
sugar.
say anything, so.
Yeah, no, I typically am not in favor of adding more people to an already large board or commission or committee or working group, but these are important additions, so I'm on
You're
board
comfortable
with
with it?
that, yes.
I'll just say personally, like not being totally immersed in the subject matter and you being so.
Me too.
It's a heavy burden.
I'll bear weight.
Yes. I'll bear it.
Guys, you realize the bow tie count was up 200%.
So, all right, that was a little quicker than I anticipated.
That's okay.
So what we're doing right now, once we do break, the three of us are gonna start doing some agenda planning for next week.
Oh, why did he ask me? Because I sit on the ethics panel with him. That's the.
That is exactly what I was looking at. Yes, correct. I knew you were a part of these conversations. Yeah.
And that's a new appointment, so.
We just discussed it today, doing that.
So. Yeah, I personally don't feel the need for us to take possession on it. Yeah, I'm trusting the work of that committee. Should an issue arise, they'll let us know. You're obviously a point person for that for us. So thank you, Representative.
And then it'll be presented for the new people, it'll be presented on the floor and as a bill and they'll vote it. I think he said they're voting today. So at a committee,
Yeah, tomorrow, I think he said.
but tomorrow.
Yeah.
At a committee.
Tomorrow.
Then there's a process. It gets out and you get to the floor and.
Yeah.
Be able to vote on.
Yeah. So on to sort of like what we have for the rest of the week. Welcome back, Mr. Chair.
Without your lunch.
Thank you, guys.
Forgetting this.
Stay hydrated. So we do have floor, yes. So we do have floor at 3. We do have ethics rules and decorum training. We're staying on brand with these conversations today. So we're gonna start piecing together the agenda. We, as discussed before, we had left some holes in the schedule to see if Mr. Busa could come in. He got back to us with some times, and it looks like right now, we're hoping for Wednesday afternoon is what we briefly discussed. We'll let you folks know.
Which afternoon again? I'm sorry. Next Wednesday.
Yeah, Mr. Busa, it's looking like next Wednesday afternoon is the best window of opportunity for everyone.
Okay.
And so we'll start piecing the agenda together. Once we go off. And then we're gonna bring in some more introductions from organizations. Et cetera. So any suggestions from members of folks we may have missed or not gotten to yet? I don't think we're at missed yet. We're still trying to get to it. But feel free to offer suggestions for organizations and or departments and agencies to bring in. I think we moved through a respectable amount of those entities so far. So I'm feeling good about the timeline for the immersion. And then we're starting to see some more bills come in. So we'll start figuring out, now that we're getting through a slug of the introductions, we can start having conversations about what we want to start like actually considering working on. Yeah. So everybody kind of spin your gears on that. We're definitely on that. So I have nothing else formal for the afternoon unless anyone else does. Nope. All right, cool. Thank you. That's government operations and military affairs on January 23rd.
Let me give it a try.
As long as that's a snack and not food.